Here we go, folks. 5 teams vying for 4 spots. Or for some of you, probably 4 teams are vying for 4 spots because it's pretty clear cut to you and basically to me. But I understand the Alabama argument. And if there's an Alabama argument, there should be a Tennessee argument, right? 6 teams vying for 4 spots, even though that's not reality. Maybe that should be reality. Welcome to the Voice of College Football, and consider this, folks. Many of you watch during the college football season, of course. Many of you watch all year because football never stops here at the Voice of College Football. The day after the national championship game, we will just continue day after day after day after day with everything that's going on in college football like nothing ever stopped. So consider, if you're in for the long run, 24/7, 365 with us, first of all, I thank you. And secondly, you know that we talk about this all the time. This is the center of the college football universe, the playoff. Who's going to make the playoff? What should the playoff be? How should it be determined? How many teams? What's the format? Where should the locations be? It's all about the playoff. So this is the day. We finally get to this day. We talk about this in May. We talk about it in February. We talk about it each week of the season, every day. But we finally get to this day. And those 13 people, those 13 individual members who hold all of the authority of college football, because this is what it's all about. This is why you play. As it was most famously stated at one point in the NFL, this is why you play the games, to play for a championship. We saw that over the weekend, conference championships, which I put a ton of stock in and always have, and they are at the heart of college football. The conferences are unique. They're traditional. They go back generations, and they're tangible. But this is the national championship, and we are a gold standard society here in America, the United States, and it only matters to us who wins the gold medal, or to most of us. Therefore, it's about the playoff and the national championship game. So welcome in. I will leave the link, and depending on when we get started here, which I'm guessing there's going to be a long delay because it's a television show. They want to build up an audience, and they want to drag this on as long as possible because the audience for this TV show on ESPN, believe me, is going to plummet once the 4 teams are announced. It goes whoop, because tons of people don't care to hear anything more out of the analysts or why those teams made it or why other teams did not make it. They just want to see the 4 officially, and then they're done. and they're out. So they're going to drag it on for a while. So maybe we'll take some calls. And then just keep in mind, when we go through the rankings, I'm going to suspend that particular call and suspend the calls until at least we get through the rankings. Okay? Kirk Herbstreit's on set, so it's a big day. There we go. Exclusive reveal of college football playoff teams on ESPN, and we directly know here at the Voice of College Football, we appreciate everybody being here. Thank you so much for your support and being here for the best discussion, debate, and analysis, not because of me, but because of you. Let me get the link in the chat. I'm fired up. We should be fired up. I'm less fired up than I would be had there been a ton of chaos. I was looking forward to it, hoping and pleading for, as many of you were, a ton of chaos. We've got just basically one minor argument, one minor bit of business, which would be Alabama. That really matters. And then the other one would be, does Ohio State jump TCU? And I think not. I don't think Alabama is going to be selected, and I do not think Ohio State's going to jump TCU. I believe, and I could be wrong, of course, because as I often say on here, and some of you already have heard it so many times that you preempt me before I answer your question to say, Mark, I know that you're not in the business of trying to guess what a committee is going to select. But based on what we've seen out of the committee, based on how they've set this up, Georgia won, obviously. They are the most dominant team in the country with the best resume. Michigan, a clear number 2. And Michigan fans, I do understand your argument for number 1. Better wins at the top, the better win at the top. Number 3 is TCU, with one more win than Ohio State, with a conference championship game appearance in which they took Kansas State to overtime. And then also a deeper list of wins than Ohio State, and not on the scoreboard as egregious of a loss as Ohio State by 22 points to Michigan, and then Ohio State at number 4. The case for the Buckeyes over TCU is, number 1, they've got a better number 1 win in Penn State. Number 2, they lost to the number 2 team in the country, one of only 2 undefeateds, while TCU lost to a 3-loss team. And number 3 point for the Buckeyes would be that they have clearly been more dominant by any metric the entire season than TCU. TCU's been hanging on by a thread each and every week. To their credit, they've come through unscathed, at least at the conference championship game. We just had a call there. I was about to take it. But if you would like to call back, that would be great. We have left the link in the chat. I will do it one more time here. So please join the show if you would like. Once again, just understand that once they start to select and unveil the rankings, then we will suspend that. Even though number 5 through 25 don't really matter to many of you and most of you, I get it. They matter to me. They do matter to me. So, Uncle Rico, what you got? Local Ohio State media guy got an email this morning with details for covering Fiesta Bowl, which would mean Ohio State, Michigan semi. That local media guy should not be revealing that. I would think that he would cease to get emails after this concerning that, but who knows? So we've got an inside scoop from Uncle Rico. So it pays for us to have connections like Uncle Rico. Because I got to tell you guys that I think you all tell that I'm busting my tail as much as I can to cover the sport of college football. But I'm not a big insider guy, because basically the insider guys are phenomenal at what they do. But once they release their information, everybody else knows within 5 minutes. So why be an insider guy if you're doing what I'm doing? So thank you so much for the tip there, Uncle Rico. That means it would be Michigan at 2 and Ohio State at 3. How about that? Because there is a debate that could be waged between whether fans, whether you and I would like to see Ohio State and Michigan and then the matchup between TCU and Georgia, which would guarantee that either Michigan or Ohio State would play Georgia. We're going to assume a Georgia win. We shouldn't, but we will for a second. Or whether the thought is Ohio State just got blasted by Michigan. That was Ohio State's last game. Michigan has played since, but it's Ohio State's last game. We don't want to see them play Michigan again. They really need to earn it against somebody else before they play Michigan. But what is the easier path to a national championship? Well, it would appear to be whomever would get to play TCU. And so that's either going to be Michigan at 2 versus 3, or that's going to be Georgia at 1 versus 4. Uncle Rico, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for the heads up. Ohio State, Michigan fans, how do you feel about that? Playing each other? Do you want to play somebody else with a possibility that you play Ohio State or Michigan the next time in the championship game? Or do you not want to play in the first round? Jared, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. So this would be Jared's top 4 teams, I believe. Jared's top 4 teams of all time or during the college football playoff era. The 2020 Bama team, number 1. Number 2 is the 15 Bama team. The number 3 team is Bama in 2009. And number 4 is just Bama. Bama anytime. Marty Smith's at Alabama. And Nick Saban, of course, went on his media spree last night, campaigning for his team, much like Urban Meyer did in 2006 and was successful. I had a number of issues with Nick Saban's claims, but I understand why he does it. He has every right to do it. And certainly the networks want to talk to Nick Saban. They want to hear from Nick Saban. They're usually tracking him down just to get a word from him because he typically could care less to talk to the media because he knows he can talk to them anytime he needs it. So he needed it last night. I was asked yesterday whether Nick Saban contacted the media or they contacted him, Fox Sports in particular. And I'm almost certain that they contacted him. They know that the only controversy to capitalize on in a business that thrives, especially in this day and age on controversy, is to implement or put out there the Alabama equation in all this. That's the only controversy. And then the only mild controversy would be Ohio State versus TCU for the 4 spot. We can also throw in Tennessee, as ESPN is right now. Tennessee lost to Georgia by 2 scores. It was a bigger blowout than that. They lost to South Carolina by 25. It was a 35-31 game. I like to point out it was not a blowout from the start. It was a 4-point game in the third quarter. Then Tennessee got just blasted after that. And the committee is going to take into consideration, because they already have, that Hendon Hooker is injured. Now, by any logic, how could Bama possibly jump over Ohio State, let alone Tennessee jump over anyone? Unless the committee changed its mind, then it's going to have a ton of explanation in front of it to say, well, we changed our mind. We just are thinking differently this week than we did last week. Well, then that would completely shoot the credibility of the committee if they would in fact lift Alabama or Tennessee over Ohio State or Alabama and Ohio State. I don't see any way around that. That would shoot the credibility of the committee down the drain, because the only path that I saw for Alabama prior to yesterday was LSU winning, or a weak argument would be LSU playing close to Georgia, boosting Alabama's resume, and there being the argument that this magically boosted Alabama's resume so much that it surpassed Ohio State. But before this weekend, last weekend's rankings were Ohio State 5, Alabama 6. Neither team played. And if anything, Georgia won impressively. They did not play Alabama. LSU did. They lost unimpressively. And Michigan won impressively for the most part. And that gets tacked on to Ohio State's resume. So if anything, Ohio State's resume has been boosted by the weekend results. Toledo, hey, somebody pointed out last night, Toledo won the MAC championship. That boosts Ohio State's resume. In the eyes of the committee, probably not. In the eyes of all of you, probably not. But it technically did. We're in commercial, folks. If anybody wants to join, the link is in the live chat a few different times. I will leave it one more time. I have just posted a video on Deion Sanders at Colorado. Just posted it, fresh off the presses, hot off the presses. My thoughts about primetime to Buffalo. I've just noticed in recent weeks, maybe I'm way behind the times, that primetime has become Coach Prime. That makes sense. He's a coach now. So primetime has become Coach Prime. Maybe he's going to become Prime Buff with the Buffs. How do we like that? And then this week in college football, we also have the matter of a Heisman Trophy. Caleb Williams, Max Duggan, it seems to be coming down to those two, with many of the ballots already cast before championship weekend. This needs to be cleaned up in college football as well. If you're a Heisman voter, you either need to determine that you're going to send in your ballot after all the games are played, and that needs to be a mandate that if we receive your ballot before the last game is played, then your ballot is going to be considered null and void, and you are going to be disarmed of your privileges. Or it's a regular season award that does not include the conference championship games, and therefore the voting is going to conclude, and you need to have your ballot in before the championship games. One or the other. First call coming in this afternoon. We appreciate debate. Gave it a shot there for a second, but unfortunately couldn't connect or something. So call back if you'd like. Hopefully we can connect with you. We appreciate Mike being here. We got Jared here. We got Mike Rotunda here and Willie, J.K. Marshall. Good to see all of you. Ashton's on the line. Ashton, we just want to keep in mind that once they go to the rankings, we're going to stop our conversation just to take in the rankings. But appreciate you being here. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. What's going on?
Nothing much. Just getting ready for the rankings to come out.
All right. That was probably the most intelligent call we've ever received here. Ashton is waiting for the rankings to come out. So, folks, we want to let all of you know that there are rankings coming out. Ashton has informed us. We've got rankings coming out. All right. We may want to look into that. All right. Latest super chat coming in. We got We on Lock Nation. We on Lock Nation. Thanks for everything, even though you're a Buckeye. I respect Buckeyes more than Michigan State fans. Okay. So for We Unlock Nation, it goes Michigan State fans at the bottom, Ohio State fans next to the bottom. Thank you for the respect. We appreciate you. I do what I can here, and I do my best. So I got to say, Michigan Nation, Wolverine Nation, whatever you call yourself, thanks for being here, because we appreciate it, and we cover all of college football. We do our best, and for the teams that we don't cover, it's either because not much is going on there, or I just don't have enough time because I'm one person. But we intend on covering all of college football. And once again, as we take these calls, we're going to suspend the conversation once the rankings start. We got Dalton on the line. Dalton, what's going on?
Hey, nothing much. Enjoying the show so far. As a Penn State fan.
What do you expect to see? What do you want to see? What's on your mind?
Hoping Alabama does not make it into the top 4, but have uncertainty if the committee's going to trust the legend that is Alabama to put them at 4. I think the 4 spot's the only thing up for question.
Well, here we go. I'm surprised that they're not going from 25 all the way down. They're actually showing us the top seeds first. So we've got Georgia at 1. Okay, we know that. All right. And we'll probably have 10 minutes of conversation before we get number 2. So you don't want Alabama, and that's all your only hope here? Your only wish?
I think it is, but it's like who is 4 then? I think it's TCU because of how they lost in overtime, but I think we've earned the right to see an outside Power 5 conference in that 4 spot.
Outside the Power 5? Who would that be? Michigan at 2.
In the 4 spot, that'd be TCU, correct?
Well, they're a Power 5 conference team.
I guess they are. Well, then I'd like to see TCU there either way.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see Tulane elevated to number 4. So Michigan's at number 2. And now this is the only drama right here, 3 and 4, unless Alabama gets some kind of bump.
What are your thoughts on the 4 spot as far as who's more deserving of that spot? If they didn't play or they did play a conference championship game?
Yeah, so I'm thinking that TCU should be the 3 and Ohio State the 4, but I understand the argument, and I've made the argument for Ohio State too. So it can go either way for me, and I totally get it, but I would go TCU 3 and Ohio State 4.
I like that.
I'm sorry.
I don't.
TCU 3, Ohio State 4.
Yeah, I don't want to see the Allen or the Ohio State Michigan rematch.
No, I really don't want to see that either unless it's earned by both teams.
I'd agree with that for sure. With Ohio State not playing this past weekend and Michigan blowing them out on their home turf, I don't know.
Yep. We got TCU at 3.
I like that. I think if you play and lose a close battle in a conference championship, you deserve to still be in the conversation.
Yeah. To me, that's only one part of the resume. So I think everybody gets wrapped up in what happened the last game, but it's a complete season, or should be a complete evaluation for the entire season. And I've come out with a list of why Ohio State can be argued to be number 3 instead of 4, but I still believe that TCU overall has just a slightly better resume.
Sure, and I like that they're in the conversation, so I'm excited to see them play.
Yeah, Michigan, TCU, and then here at number 4, hopefully we get it here. This is the drama of the whole deal, whether Alabama is going to somehow eclipse Ohio State, which would be impossible and moronic because they didn't play. Nobody played, so how could you possibly jump a team that you didn't play or neither team played? So this has to be Ohio State. And then the
way you just described it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard me say a few minutes ago, the only way that I could see Alabama jumping Ohio State would have been if LSU would have beaten Georgia, because that would have boosted Alabama's resume. But that didn't happen.
Yep. No, I agree. So it's got to be Ohio State. Here's hoping. As a Big Ten fan, here's hoping.
All right. We're going to keep talking, and we'll finally get it at some point. I'm sure they've got it. They're just their TV ratings are going to plummet as soon as that number 4 goes up there. There it is. Ohio State's at number 4. There it is.
Love it.
There's the
drama. Complete 4. I'm happy.
Well, thanks for calling, Dalton. Do you have anything else for us?
That's it. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Thanks for taking us through the rankings. All right, Dalton, thank you so much for that. Now we might as well continue on, and we'll just keep our eye on the rest of the top 25 if anybody cares about that, which, again, I do, but I understand people that don't. Hey, Rob, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing, Mark?
I'm doing well.
Yeah, I haven't been on in a little while because I had some things going on, but about this conversation for 1 through 4, and I think it's funny we talk about teams that don't play, and there was a tweet that I forget who put it out. They were basically almost mocking Ohio State for not playing, and they're like, way to go, you get blown out by 22 at home, and then you just sit on the sidelines and get in the college football playoffs anyway for not playing. And I'm not knocking Ohio State. I think they are probably one of the top 4 to 6 teams in the country. But it's funny because like you look at USC, I think if they don't get blown out by the way that they do against Utah, there's more legit conversation that they shouldn't have dropped out of the top 4. It's unfortunate that I think USC had a really good team this year, and I'm not a USC fan. I'm a Notre Dame fan, but they had a really good team this year, and they kind of blew it against Utah. For some reason, they can't play Utah. Their only 2 losses are to Utah, and of course, Caleb Williams getting hurt certainly derailed that game more than it would have been otherwise. But I just think it's funny that USC was like incredibly penalized for, I don't know how far they're going to drop, but yeah, and I'm not saying Ohio State doesn't deserve to be in. They're certainly more deserving than Alabama. I mean, all the people talking about Alabama being in, I think it's hilarious because, who have they beat? First of all, Texas, and who cares? They're like what, 4 plays from 4 losses or something like that. I mean, they just didn't have a good.
You can argue that they're 2 plays away from being undefeated, and they're 2 or 3 plays away from having 4 losses. Yep.
Right. And either way, I mean, this is not the 2020 Alabama team. This is the 2022 Alabama team, which is clearly not up to that caliber. So, yeah, they definitely didn't. I don't think they deserve to be number 6, honestly. I think they were ranked too high. Yeah. Oh, they're 5 now, right? So,
yeah.
But yeah, they didn't deserve to be that high, anyways. But whatever. I think that's the Alabama, brand name carrying them a little bit.
Yeah.
But anyways, what do you think about that Clemson game with Cade Klubnik finally starting? Do you think, why do you think it took Dabo so long to make that change? No, I'm sorry, he didn't start, but I mean he's gonna start the Orange Bowl though.
Yeah, so I had the game on, but I wasn't paying that much attention to it. So I guess he played well. I saw the final score, and again, I had it on a laptop, but I wasn't paying that much attention. I know that DJ was faltering, and at some point in the second quarter, he got benched. And I don't know, Cade Klubnik came into a game. He came into a game against Syracuse, and they came back and won. He really didn't have anything to do with it. He really didn't do anything. And then he came into the Notre Dame game and threw a bad pick, but I think they threw him in a bad situation, backed up at his own goal line. So, I think that we don't see what goes on in practice. So I don't know how well he's playing, but based on the way DJ's playing and the way Cade Klubnik's highly recruited and thought of, that I would think that this is the move to make, and it should have been made earlier.
Yeah, well, he wasn't to me, he's got a lot of hype for that game yesterday, but it's not like he was blowing the stat sheet away. He was like 20 of 24 for 279 and a touchdown.
He was 20 for 24?
Well, that's exactly what I was about to say. Like, the rest of his stats don't look that amazing, but the fact that he was 20 for 24, and you got DJ going like 9 of like 30 or something a lot of the times, it's just, yeah. Well, I'm just saying DJ is, I feel bad for DJ because he's a nice guy, but yeah, it's just, I don't know what happened to him, because he seemed like he was going to be the next star at Clemson, and he just kind of fell off the rails.
Yeah. He is completing 62% of his passes this year.
Okay. Well, yeah, I took one game a little too much then, but yeah, it's
he did have a 9 for 29, I think was the number against
South Carolina.
Yeah. Cade Klubnik, 20 for 24 for 279.
Yeah. I think that's the big, to me, it's those completions. Like, if he can stay completing and limit the turnovers, then that's going to be good for Clemson. But I think people are kind of overhyping him a little bit. They're like, oh, Clemson finally got their quarterback fixed. And I'm like, well, it's one game, people. We don't know. Like, yeah, he played well against North Carolina, but they're not exactly world beaters on defense. So, So we'll see what he does in the Orange Bowl. But anyway, that's kind of my thoughts there. I should let other people get on here.
Yeah. I didn't see that much, and just saw that he got into the game, and I knew DJ started, and obviously I saw sporadic downfield plays, and I saw a blocked field goal that led to points. And again, I don't really have any kind of evaluation except for they did what I expected them to do. I didn't really give it much thought that they would cover the spread against North Carolina, and they did. They're just a better flat out better all around team.
Oh, how are you? One more thing. What are your thoughts on Ohio State? So they left TCU at 3, even though they lost, which I think is good because I think TCU definitely played a good game there, and
Yeah.
I think the coach kind of screwed them over at the end, sadly, because they went for it instead of kicking the field goal. But either way, so do you think Ohio State has a good shot against Georgia after what you saw against LSU? And LSU is kind of one of those teams that are hard to judge. So yeah, what are your thoughts on Ohio State versus Georgia?
I don't think they have a good shot. I think they've got a shot. I think they've got as much of a shot as anybody else that's played them this year. I think they're just as good, if not better, than Tennessee and Oregon, certainly. So those are the two best teams Georgia's played, aside from LSU, I guess. So they're the best team that Georgia's played this year.
And Stroud is going to play, right?
That's what we hear.
Okay. All right. Well, good luck to you, Mark. Hope your Buckeyes perform well.
Thanks, Rob. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, have a good one. Yeah, somebody had mentioned, and I'm sure there are Buckeye fans out there that don't want to be in the playoff because they're fearful that Ohio State's going to get blown out, and maybe they will. If Ohio State plays like they did against Michigan and Maryland and Northwestern, which I don't believe it's going to be like 37 degrees and sleet and 50-mile-an-hour winds at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So I think that's probably out of the question. But Ohio State's going to have to man up in this game against Georgia. I think it's good for them. It's good for them. So they're either going to man up and win the game or be competitive, or they're going to lose 45-17. Sad Saban. I always enjoy these people that come up with these kind of, what are these called? Mock accounts, fake accounts, whatever they are. Not thinking of the right term. They're basically, anyway. Sad Saban here. You got any more playoff spots available? Well, in 2 years. And Nick Saban is all for the expansion. All for the expansion, which his teams didn't need expansion except for this year. And 2019 would have helped. There's Sad Saban again. Did you know that Bryce Young was injured? Yes, we know that Bryce Young was injured. We also know that Quinn Ewers was injured in the Texas game against Alabama. And Alabama may have lost that game. And I know, Sad Saban, that you very much know that. So, Sad Saban, yes, Nick is going to be not a jolly St. Nick for Christmas this year. What is it? It's going to be the Sugar Bowl for Nick in Kansas State, that game. Sad Saban, did you see how well we played against Austin Peay? You know what? Maybe that information didn't get to the committee. Maybe they missed that information. Possibly. All right, next call coming up here. We got DeAndre and BG.
What's up, Mark? Let me turn down the TV, man. My fault.
No worries. What's going on?
Hey, man. First off, I didn't get a chance to talk to you last night, so I want to address the DJ and Cade situation.
Sure.
And I would like to remind people, Carolina makes all their quarterbacks look good. Every quarterback they play against, they make look good. Now, come on, Mark. They did play 3 backup quarterbacks on the road and lose to them, right? Now, 4th stringer with NC State, he looked excellent too, right?
Yeah. The backup quarterback for them might be just as good as Devin Leary. I don't know. But yeah, Carolina's not got a great defense.
Yeah. That's my point. And I have said this in the past, and I'll say it again. I don't think that DJ was meant to go to Clemson because when you heard about DJ when he was coming out, he was more like Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston is not a running quarterback. I mean, Clemson's more, even with Kelly Bryant, has thrived where they had athletic type quarterback. So I think people are being way too hard on DJ. I just don't think it was the correct system. If he doesn't go pro, I think he should transfer to like Michigan State or Texas A&M where it more fits the style. But I know we're here to talk about the college football playoffs. We all knew this was going to happen, especially after Clemson lost to South Carolina last week, because everything fell perfectly for Clemson. So I think they would have got in They didn't lose to South Carolina by 1 point last week.
Yep.
But I think Ohio State's a good choice, and I agree with you that I think that Ohio State probably was the best matchup against Georgia. Georgia, I seen LSU play this year, but they still gave up 30 points to LSU. And I think Ohio State has a way better offense than LSU does. And they got more time to get healthy and prepare. I think Ohio State's down with their 2 tackles. They're two right guards.
We're here.
Well, they're right guard and left guard, right? Was that correct?
Oh, the guards.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, they're able to get them back. I think it'd be a much improved game. And sometimes you just, like I said, Michigan and the weather helps beat Ohio State. And I know Georgia and Michigan play similar, but I think that because they're playing in the dome, I think that Ohio State will fare a little bit better versus Georgia than most people give them credit for.
Well, there were no weather in the Ohio State-Michigan game. It was 55 degrees and sunny.
Well, 55 in the South and 55 up north is totally different.
Exactly. 55 in the north is perfect football weather. That's the point.
Yeah.
It didn't have anything to do with the game. Michigan just blasted them in the fourth quarter.
Oh, yeah, but I agree with you. But we talked about, looking at Stanford and what they did to Oregon and Southern Cal when they rose, because they played a different brand, and that brand doesn't help Ohio State out. That physical ball. We saw that with Oregon last year, in Michigan last year. So, yeah, they're going to have to get ready. But I like Michigan. Georgia's chances. I don't know what happened to the Ohio State's receivers throughout the year outside of Marvin Harrison Jr., but I was expecting big things for them. And any bowl game excites you, Mark, this year outside of the top 4?
Well, I'm going to see the bowl selections. I haven't seen them.
Oh, I thought you said that. I just thought one of y'all said that Kansas State and Alabama was playing.
Well, Kansas State won the Big 12, so they're going to be the Sugar Bowl representative for the Big 12, and Alabama's the next seed in the SEC. So that's about the only thing that I know off the top of my head. There's all sorts of bowl projections, and USC is supposed to play Tulane in the Cotton Bowl. That doesn't do much for me.
Well, that's one thing I was telling Jordan and Craven last night. I would love to see Clemson play Southern Cal if that was a possibility in the Orange Bowl, because I haven't played since the 60s.
I think we went to Clemson and Tennessee.
Yep, and that's another good matchup because they recruit the same area. And I was telling Jordan and them this last night, Tennessee is the reason why Clemson went on probation in the 80s, because the 2 guys that wanted to leave Clemson wanted to go to Tennessee and play, but Clemson wouldn't release them for their scholarships. If you look at the opening of the Clemson Nebraska game in the Orange Bowl, they talk about that, the 2 guys that wanted to go. And also I have insider information on that one. So, yeah, they wanted to go. They wanted to go there. But, that was something I was interested in seeing. And even Clemson going to play Utah out there in the Rose Bowl, which I know ain't going to happen. Probably Utah or Penn State, right? Probably so. That's what they're aiming at, probably.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to. Clemson's going to get the Rose Bowl. I don't think the Rose Bowl wants it.
I say that's what I would like. That's what I would have liked to see.
I would like to see Clemson and Utah.
Yeah, the Rose Bowl.
See a traditional Rose Bowl, so I think we're going to see
Utah and Penn State, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at, but
not that sounds like a traditional Rose Bowl, but
but that's what I would. That's what I was hoping for. Because I don't think Clemson's ever played. Well, I know Clemson's never played in the Rose Bowl. I think Duke is the only ACC school outside of Florida State that ever played in the Rose Bowl. So actually, the Rose Bowl was held in Durham one year. But yeah, man, I enjoyed yesterday. A bunch of upsets. I mean, what could have been, what should have been for Clemson is just you had it all there at the same time, and unfortunately, we lost to South Carolina. So
1 point.
What's up? Yeah, but at one point, but it happens. You should have stopped him. Like I said, I don't blame DJ for everything that happened in that game, but
Better special teams would have done it.
oh yeah, that punter, he was supposed to be the best punter coming out of the country for Clemson, and just terrible. And I don't know why they ran that play at 9 and when it was up 16-7. So yeah, man, it's just it is what it is. You accept it and you move on. We'll have better years next year, and we'll see. And I hope DJ just find a better landing spot for himself or go pro or something, because I think he's an excellent kid. I mean, I just think that it's sad that he had a difficult year this year, and he was much improved compared to last year. So I just hope that he can. Man, I love these Georgia tight ends. I mean, they're just amazing. That kid that's I don't know his name, but number 19, I think it is. Man, he's Brock Bowers. That's got to be one of the best. I didn't really see the guy that played for the Atlanta Falcons like that. They came out of Florida, but this guy, every time you see him play, it's like, how did he catch that? That guy was just amazing. And I like Brock Bowers.
The backup tight end at Georgia, he's a 5-star. Darnell Washington. If you ever see him line up next to Brock Bowers, he makes Brock Bowers look like a child.
Yeah, number 0, right?
Huge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What did the other kid that transferred for LSU? Did he ever start back playing?
Eric Gilbert.
Yeah.
He played a little bit, but I don't know what's going on with him now. I don't know if he just had another personal issue in which that took him off the field. I don't remember. I remember hearing at the time, but I don't always retain information. So I think it was a personal issue, and I don't believe it was health. I'll look it up. Eric Gilbert, yeah.
Yeah. And some people said he would probably been better playing defensive end coming out of college, high school. They thought that he would have been a perfect type defensive end. So, but I mean, this is all good. I wish the kid the best. Sometimes I know they got to develop a little bit before you go pro, but some people ain't meant to go to college because they don't want to put in the work. They just want to play football, and unfortunately, it doesn't work like that.
Kirby Smart said a few days ago, he said, we're trying to help Eric Gilbert be the best person he can be on and off the field. That's a decision we make each and every week. So obviously he's having issues.
Robert, let me ask you this. How do you like the Georgia Tech hire, and how do you like the Colorado hire?
Well, I think the Colorado hire is phenomenal. I think it's great. I think they might as well go for broke and try to make a splash, make a name for themselves. They get ignored. Nobody pays attention to their football program. So they could make really good hires there's a lot of good, capable football coaches out there, but you might as well hire somebody who's shown to be a capable football coach, at least at that SWAC level. And that also is going to make people take notice. And then you can also make inroads in the transfer portal and in recruiting with Dion. I think it's a great hire. Now, it may not turn out because he's not proven, but they're Colorado. They don't have that much to lose at this point, just to be bad for another 3 years and then get rid of him.
Right. And also on top of that, like you said, everybody know who he is. You bringing in swag and stuff like that. So I think it's a great hire. Now my problem with the Georgia Tech hire, I thought they should have went after Shaw, and they might have. I don't know nothing about it, but I thought Shaw for Stanford would have been a perfect pick for them. But I mean, this guy did get them motivated and improve their team. So they did what was best for their program. But I think Shaw would have been a better hire.
Yeah, out of all the interim coaches that were selected, meaning Jim Leonard at Wisconsin and Mickey Joseph at Nebraska and Brent Key, he was the one guy that proved enough. And they played so much better with him as the head coach, and he even lost Jeff Sims for most of that time. And then just think about, and so I think that's a good hire. And I also believe that based on the way David Shaw sounds, he doesn't sound like he's ready to coach immediately.
No.
It sounds like he's ready to say goodbye forever, or at least take some time off. Now, the interesting thing about Nebraska is, can you imagine if Nebraska would have elevated Mickey Joseph to head coach?
Yeah.
They have one heck of a scandal on their hands right now.
Yeah. My question about Nebraska and their hiring practices.
Yeah.
I don't understand how they're hiring these like they fired Frost and they could have waited a certain amount of time. And then they who was the guy they paid all the rough their new coach all that money for him to and Carolina Panthers are not on the hook for none of the money. So I couldn't understand those type of what they were doing with their program. That makes sense. Like, I couldn't understand like why they didn't save money by waiting 2 weeks to fire Scott Frost, and then
because it was worth it. That situation was so bad, so toxic, so stale. 2 weeks is an eternity, 2 to 3 weeks in college football, and to have recruiting derail and all of that become even the course of 3 weeks. Yes, it was worth that amount of money.
okay.
But the more I thought about it, when that initially happened, that was my initial reaction too. They couldn't wait two or 3 weeks to save $7 million. No, you're running a big time football program and it's a joke, and people know that he's gone, and you've got a couple more home games and they're chanting fire Frost at the games, and you're losing recruits. And yeah, it's just move on.
Yeah, if you say so, but I mean, it's not my money, so they can do whatever they want with it.
Absolutely.
But I mean, but I would have saved the money. But hey, more power to them. But yeah, I can't wait for them to announce the bowl things, man. I really think Michigan. I don't know what the opening line is, and I'm online right now. But I think Michigan's gonna run TCU out the building.
Really?
Yeah. You disagree?
I have no thought that I would think TCU is going to stay in this game.
Okay. I don't know. What's staying in the game? Less than 10 points?
Yeah, something in that. You know, if it's a 10 to 14 point game in the second half, that's staying in the game. The game's still in doubt. The game's still being played. It's still competitive. Sure.
Yeah, I think it'll be 14 plus, but I also said that about Southern Cal and Utah, and we saw what happened with that one. So,
well, yeah, I'm not saying it's not going to be plus 14 at the end of the game, but
no, I'm talking about. I said I had picked.
Yeah, I'm talking about this game. I'm not saying that Michigan's not going to win by more than 14. I'm just saying that I believe it's still to be a game in the fourth quarter.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Whether that's 31-17 with 10 minutes left, to me, that's still a game because there's still plenty of time to score twice.
Right. Who do you think will win the Heisman now, Mark?
Caleb Williams.
You think so?
I think if Max Duggan would have won that game, not that it was his fault, but if he would have won that game yesterday, I think that it would be more interesting, except for the idiotic Heisman process. So I'm going to go on a rant here for a second. Either tell these voters you need to wait until all the games are played, or we're taking your ballots and we are burning them. You either need to watch all the games and let all the games and for the entire season to play out, and then you vote, or we're taking your vote away from you and you are never voting on the Heisman again. That's what I would do. Or it's a regular season, meaning not conference championship award, and we need to have your vote in before the conference championship games, and we don't count the conference championship games. One or the other. Why did we just leave it up to people to send their ballot in whenever they want? There are ballots that come in like 2 or 3 games left in the season. I would immediately rip it up, shred it, done. You're not voting. You're not part of this process anymore.
Right.
It's just when I first moved to Connecticut and listened to New York sports radio and realized that there were two guys in New York sports radio at the time. One of them's on ESPN right now, Chris Russo, who knows nothing about college football, that has a Heisman vote. That's when I thought, okay, this is when I have little respect for this process, because I know that there are people that vote for the Heisman that don't know anything about college football.
Right.
Let people vote that know what they're talking about and follow the game.
Right. I agree with you. I don't know when the Heisman started being about who's on the best winning team, because you could be a great player and be on a sorry team. If that makes sense. I mean,
yeah, you're just the best player in America.
Yeah, I mean, you know, yes.
Sure, you could technically be on a 6-6 team.
Yeah, and you know, the rest of your team just suck. And I never. That's one thing I never. I remember when I think it was Jay Brocker out of Alabama back in '92.
Oh, Jay.
I think he was on a Heisman thing, and I was like, "How? He don't do nothing except for hand the ball off to those running backs." But some reason he was up there, and I'm like, "Why?" I mean, I don't think he threw for 1,000 yards that year. He might have, but I mean,
well, I think he had a better year than you think he did.
Wow, for real? I wasn't impressed with him. You might be right.
14 touchdowns and 6 picks comes to mind. Let's see how close I am on this. 14 touchdowns and 5 picks his senior season.
Well, more back then.
And he threw the ball. Yeah, back then he was at 62% completion percentage. Back then, that was really high. 62%. He threw for 2,000 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 5 picks his senior season.
Okay. I still wasn't impressed with him. I mean, he was on the best team, I guess.
And back then, this is not today. And you got to consider, if he played for a national championship team today, he wouldn't be playing in 12 games. He'd play in 15 games. So those stats are compiled over 15 games today, not 12. So he would have thrown another 3 touchdown passes, 3 to 4 touchdown passes. He would have thrown for another 500 yards, 2,500 yards. I'm just saying that you got to take into consideration his statistics against the era.
Okay, I'll go with that.
I'm not saying he had some kind of great season. I'm not saying that he had some kind of great season. I totally get your point.
Yeah, I just never. I think the Heisman was like one of the most overrated awards there is currently. I mean, back in the day, you know, you saw Salam win it. You know, I could see that dude really powered his team into winning. But some of those other guys, I'd be like, I don't know about him. I mean, Gino Torretta, I think he was a good quarterback at Miami at that time. I think he won it. I don't think he was the best player in the country that year.
Well, I don't think he was the best player in the country, because I don't think that the quarterback is always the best player in the country. It's a quarterback award.
Yeah, I think back when we were coming up, I think more people put more effort into
running back award when we were growing up.
Yeah. Good. You know, like, I think who won it when we was younger? Receiver. Desmond Howard won it, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, but he returned kicks and stuff. Yeah.
Tim Brown had won the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
I bet he caught 25 passes that year.
Yeah. You're probably right. But yeah, sometimes, you know, the best player don't always win it. Because I think, what did Hugh Green have in the year that he almost won it? Like, what, 25 sacks or something like that?
Tim Brown caught 39 passes the year he won the Heisman.
Wow.
3 touchdowns. Well, he had 4 touchdowns from scrimmage, and he had 3 punt return touchdowns. So he had scored 7 touchdowns. Who are you talking about, Hugh Green?
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to have his stats on here. Yeah, they don't have his sack stats. I don't know.
Brock, I'll let you go, but I got one more quick question for you.
Sure.
I remember Chuck Long, but obviously because of cable, you really didn't see him play like that. Was he really good, or why did he work out in the pros?
Well, he was really good in college. Yeah, he was almost won the Heisman Trophy. So, yeah, he was really good. I wasn't old enough to really process and try to rate him against as an NFL prospect, but he was drafted in the first round. So he obviously was considered to be. But look at how many quarterbacks get drafted in the first round and don't turn out. Most of them.
Oh, yeah. I was just wondering because I never heard his story of why he didn't work out and why he never worked out in the pros or nothing like that. But I know he was really good at Howard, and I'm about to say something that's probably wrong in your book, but he's the only Howard quarterback I know that has ever done anything while he was at Howard. I know Banks might have. That's another one that comes to mind, but
well, he's the best Iowa quarterback of all time. But there have been Iowa quarterbacks who have done better in the NFL. That have played a little bit.
Right.
Not much, but have done something in the NFL in the last 15 years. Yeah.
Right.
According to this site, Hugh Green had 53 sacks in college in his career, but I can't see. It doesn't say how many he had per season.
Right. All right, Mark, man, I'll catch you later. Enjoy your Sunday. I can't wait to discuss the bowl games with you. I don't really care about who's playing in the what's it called. I can't wait till they go to 12 teams in 2 years because I really think this system is majorly fraud right now.
Well, the next system is going to be pretty much the same. Just going to have more teams. Still going to be 13 people deciding who goes to the playoff.
Yeah. I know you told me it's about what you put in a computer, but I really think a computer system should take part of it. I don't know about the AP poll, but AP and coaches poll, because they all mirror each other. But I think they need to find a different way to pick, not just, I know you put stuff for schedule and all of that, but everybody, I agree with you, what you said one time. Everybody need to play 10 teams. And I think if you're going to help these smaller colleges out, go out there and put them on. How do you put it? You put them in, like maybe you play that spring game with them, give them a boatload of money, and then everybody plays somebody in another conference and stuff like that. Actually, I think this is going to make it worse because Michigan just showed I don't have to play a strong schedule to get into the tournament. I could play some weak schedules. I know Clemson can help play Notre Dame every so often, but heck, I would load up on cupcakes if everybody's going to do it like that and just call it a day. I know some people will be like, well, Clemson already plays a cupcake.
I've heard this recommendation about this spring game, and I get it, but if Clemson played a spring game against the Citadel, number one, how many Clemson players are going to play in that game? How many of the top players are going to play in that game? How seriously is anyone going to take it? Are people going to watch the game? It's not going to count against Clemson. I just don't know how much money that's going to raise. They're going to put it on TV. That's not going to make the type of money. So right now, if the Citadel goes and plays at Clemson signs a check and gives them $1.4 million. Well, that's because the game's on a network. It's at least on the ACC network, and the stadium's full. But if they're playing the Citadel in the spring and they're not going to play their players, and it doesn't count and all of that, I don't know that it's going to generate the kind of money that can pay these teams.
Well, Mark, we already talked about how much TV money they bring in. You still could, it's still gonna make a difference, right? If I don't know how much close it gets from just to the ACC network, but if you get $13 million to go to a bowl game, and I know that goes into one big pot, but if you give that school $1.5 million, that not you still got $12.5 million to play with, correct?
My point is they are paying them based on how much money they make for that particular game. They're not going to make that kind of money playing them in March.
Yeah, but I mean, who cares about the spring game? I mean, we might tune in just to see who's out there and stuff like that. That's about it, right?
Yes, but they are not paying $1.5 million to play a spring game. They're just playing a spring game. They're practicing anyway. So they actually make money on the spring game because they're practicing anyway. So why not turn the lights on at the stadium and let people in and have them pay money and put it on TV and make money? But if they do that with the Citadel there and they got to write them a check for $1.5 million and nobody's going to watch it, or nobody more than that's going to watch the spring game, and maybe Clemson, a team like Clemson, wouldn't even play a Cade Club possibly for more than a series or two and say, you know what, we're playing a real live guys get hit, guys get hurt kind of game. So we don't want to do that.
Right.
So
I got you.
We're going to play our third string quarterback and our third string this and that.
And that's what they do in the spring game anyway, right?
Pardon me?
I'd say the money part. But, man, that's what they doing anyway. But, yeah, I got you. Well, Mark, you have a great day, man. I'm about to start watching Red Zone.
All right. Thanks, Andre. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
You too.
LBC Trojan, good to have you here, man. TCU's the number 3. Uncle Rico's not the Adam Schefter of the voice of college football. Uncle Rico is much more valuable than Adam Schefter ever could be in any such way. So we value Uncle Rico far beyond Adam Schefter. No knock on Adam Schefter, of course. I'm sure he's a fine person. Never met him. Passed him in the hall a bunch of times, but never met the man that I can remember. Tide Guy, how you doing?
Hey, how we doing today?
I am doing just fine. What's going on? What's on your mind?
Hey, I wanted to call in because of the last caller. Because we discussed this a couple times in our Discord about the spring game playing an FCS team.
Yeah.
The way I said would be cool and it would work is use the FCS spring football instead of winter football. And teams like Alabama and that would play one of them and pay them. Now, I know you said, where's the money coming from? But you look at some of the – and I know Alabama is different than a lot of schools, but occasionally Alabama on the norm gets over 70,000 people to go to the spring game. We're just stupid. So, we go to any football there is. But
Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State get 70, 90,000 people. Georgia at a spring game. Sure, there's those teams.
So if we just charge people $20 to get into their school for coming in. Now, I do agree with you. It's not going to be a great game, but as well as I do, probably 80% of your fans on here, we're going to watch it just because football.
I watch it for scouting purposes. I don't consider it football. I don't consider it watching a real game when I watch a spring game, but I watch it just because I feel obligated to. But I don't enjoy
who
it.
The new players are, and kind of see how the freshmen. A lot of schools, the freshmen come in January just so that those extra practice game, and you kind of see what you're like.
Well, I don't discount all that. And when I question the money aspect of it, I don't know. I'm just conjecturing. I don't know all the facets involved in how much money is made and where that money comes from. I just know that when Alabama plays UT Chattanooga in September or November, that it's a regularly scheduled game. They sell tickets just like they do any other game. that cost 75, 90 bucks, whatever they cost. It's on the SEC network. No, it's not going to be on CBS, but it's on the SEC network. So it's part of the overall television deal that nets Alabama, whatever it nets them. And so you can divide that by 12, and that's what it is. And they more than make up the $1.123 million that they pay out to UT Chattanooga. I'm just questioning if that's a spring game. Number one, if Alabama's going to trot out Bryce Young for the first series, maybe not for any of the game. And maybe Will Anderson doesn't show up either. And Alabama just conveniently doesn't play a ton of guys in the game, number one. Number two, that because it's not a regularly scheduled game, maybe it roughly gets the same kind of rating that the spring game gets regardless. Alabama fans may actually want to see a spring game more than see them play UT Chattanooga because they can see both of their players on both sides of the ball play at the same time. I'm just kind of questioning how much money that game generates.
But here's the question for
now at the Alabama spring game for somebody to walk in the door. Do you know?
And they're smarter than, most of them. Right now, we have pro football in April, the USFL come back. But if we put the FCS in the spring to play football, wouldn't PN and Fox pay a little bit of money for them to play for the, so I mean, and then also think about it like this. You're an Ohio State fan. I'm a Bama fan. About you, but I don't have a real FCS team right now. But if FCS was playing in the spring, I would pick up an FCS team. So I'd invest a little more money, buy t-shirts, I'd buy hats and stuff like that. So I think the FCS would actually make more money doing that.
You're possibly right. I don't know, but I understand your thought and that you may be right. I don't know for sure. I don't know enough to argue with you, or I don't have enough of a opinion based on information to either argue with you or support you. You may be right. I find it kind of difficult to think that most college football fans would just pick up an FCS team in the spring. I wouldn't. I could care less who's playing and wouldn't watch any of it. I can't imagine I would watch any of it, but a lot of people would, sure.
But I mean, there's a lot of good football down there. I mean, you look at what North Dakota State's done, South Dakota, so I mean, it would give you something in the spring because not every college football fan is a baseball fan, is a basketball fan, and so there's after yesterday was a sad day because now football is over except for bowls in the playoffs, and we got to wait a whole nother year for a lot of schools. Where this way we could start, FCS in March. Now you only got a few more months, and here comes more games to carry us over until, our football comes back in August.
The other thing I would say about this, and again, I don't have the answer, I'm just bringing up points, is I don't know how the average football player, student athlete would feel about that because they don't have a pro career. 99 point whatever the percent of FCS players do not have NFL careers in their future. So they're playing football to get a scholarship, and they're used to playing summer camp, fall camp into the fall, and not used to playing in the spring. I don't know how they would feel about that. I have no idea. I don't know how many of them play other sports, play baseball, let's say, because it's not as hyper-focused. Yeah, it's not as hyper-focused. I don't know a whole lot of football players that play basketball once they get to college just because of the overlap of the seasons, but I know a lot of football players play baseball at lower level,
track team, the running track or stuff like that.
So I don't know how that would impact that.
I would just like to see more football year round because I get bored once once the playoff is over. It's kind of a long stretch.
I'm sure you're right about a lot of people being interested in spring football. Sure.
And think about it. It'll help your show in March when there's not really nothing to talk about. We got a new,
there's plenty to talk about. And, well, Tide Guy, I appreciate you thinking of me, but I guarantee that nobody's going to talk about FC. If I produced an FCS video, nobody would watch it. I guarantee that. Nobody would watch it. Nobody would care. They would rather have me talk about Ohio State in March or Alabama or whomever and talk about, I got more than enough to talk about all year, every day. There's enough transfer portal, enough recruiting, enough coaches hirings and firings and all the different lists and all of that. There's actually more to talk about, I think, in the off season than there is during the season.
Oh yeah, because like next week we get to start talking about all the recruits that are going to be signed here.
Yep.
Because signing day is right upon us. So.
Yep.
But no, I just wanted to call in and kind of tell you, my take on, if we did a spring game against an FCS, I know, a lot of the small programs would have trouble getting 20, 30,000 people to a game. But like you said, the Georgias, the Clemsons, Ohio State, Bama, we're going to have the fans there no matter what. So, I mean, we could afford to pay them.
And to your point, a lot of people would rather see a real football game than see just a glorified practice.
Right.
On the other hand, however, I think we've gotten to a point with the television coverage of the spring game is that finally the TV networks wised up to what this actually is. So for years, they used to televise these games like they were real games and they were boring as hell. Now, what they've done in the last few years is actually treat it like a TV show. They go on the field and they talk to the coach and they make it about the team. They give you a production of Clemson football in 2022, and the what's going on the field is kind of secondary to them presenting this is what Clemson's going to be in 2022, and it's much more interesting, at least to me.
Right, because a lot of times, I mean, it's not even a game, the way some of them play, they don't even, play it even like a game, and like you said, a lot of times Herb Street and them will go to Alabama and they'll be standing right next to Saban and get his take on, this and that. And that's cool because, you get the insight from Saban on what he thinks of the players and, who's, coming in and this and that. So, but it's just kind of boring, like you said, even being a Bama fan and watching it, it's cool because I learned stuff, but that's not a game, so it's not as fun.
All right, Tide Guy.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey,
you have
thanks
a great
for
day.
jumping on. I appreciate it. You too.
All right, bye.
All right, Ferris. Appreciate you being here, Ferris, as always. You know that. Wow. An all Big Ten final. Okay. Buckeye Mike's here. Buckeye Mike, what's going on?
How you doing today, Mark?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, tired because I was up too late, but doing all right.
Were you up as late as I was?
6 a.m. this morning, Mark.
You stayed up till 6?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I only stayed up till about 4:30, 4:45. What time were you up, though?
I just woke up like an hour ago.
I was up at 8, so like I like to tell your buddy like to tell your buddy, not Jackson, but oh my goodness, I'm blanking on you young guns. Like to tell your buddies. Pardon me?
Austin or Jeffrey?
Jeffrey. Like I like to tell Jeffrey when he complains about being tired, I'm like, come on, you're too young to be tired.
Dude, I'm a 65-year-old or older man inside of a 26-year-old body.
No. You got to reverse that.
I know.
No.
Well,
right. What's on your mind?
I'm honestly happy. I wouldn't have been upset if Bama did get in because of the whole question with TCU. I had a feeling they wouldn't, though. But, at the end of the day, my whole point has been this is a game, and we're here to just watch these guys play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we have fans, and I know that I've had some slip-ups and been crazy in tangents before, but
that's all right.
realistically, and I go back to Jeffrey's point, Bama didn't deserve to get in. The 4 that got in were the ones that deserved to be in because Bama had 2 losses.
Sure.
Ohio State and TCU that were in front of them had 1. So my biggest surprise is that TCU, USC didn't finish in the top 6.
Why?
That was kind of a surprise to me.
Okay.
Well, I mean, because, they were sitting at the 4 spot. Yes, they did get blown out. And I mean, in a way, I guess it makes sense because, Ohio State was number 2 and dropped 3 spots. So when they got blown out by roughly the same amount.
I don't see the listing out yet of the top 25.
Right, they haven't done it yet. I'm just saying when they
Yeah.
revealed the top 6, it was
Okay.
Georgia, Michigan, TCU, State, Alabama, and Tennessee.
Yeah.
I just would have thought that, even though it was a 3-score loss, that it would have dropped USC to 6. But, I mean, it is what it is. And, I'm looking forward to the playoff game. We have a chance. Everybody has a chance. But I'm going in with the expectation of we're going to lose. But, if we win, hey, it's great. We beat Georgia. But I have a feeling it's going to be Michigan, Georgia all over again for the whole thing, realistically speaking.
Yeah, it looks like it. They're going to be heavy favorites. Well, I'll take a guess at this. I'm going to say Georgia's going to be a touchdown favorite, and Michigan's probably going to be an 8 or 9 point favorite.
You're all on the mark because your chat has said Georgia's a 7, Michigan's a 9.
There we go.
So,
yeah, I can usually guess a point spread.
which, I mean, it makes sense because, yes, it's more than 3 points for the Georgia Ohio State, but in my mind, Georgia being a 7 almost is the committee saying, or not the committee, but the odds maker saying that, that game is more or less a toss up. Now, if the point spread was like 10 or more in Georgia's favor, then I would say they think that Ohio State has no chance.
Well, if our handicapper, odds maker guy, Steve Merrill, knows what he's talking about, which he certainly does. He's been doing this for like 35 years. Before that Michigan game, Ohio State and Alabama would have been favored against anybody in the country, and Georgia right there as well. So it might have been more like a pick'em game, or Ohio State a slight favorite against Georgia before the Michigan game.
That makes sense. Now it's just full of anxiety until the day comes.
Anxiety? Why does there need to be anxiety?
Well, maybe not. Maybe anxiety is the wrong word. I guess excitement of like I want to get this game over with, but I want to be able to sit and watch and enjoy the game. Like I guess I'm just saying I'm ready for the game.
I got you. Well, Ohio State has a lot of issues to fix in the next 4 weeks, so they get that chance.
Yeah, I think Knowles was running the right defense, and then at the end of the day, Michigan towards the end was just like, all right, we're just going to shove you one way and create a big hole, and then you don't change anything. The thing was, like, everything was working fine, it seemed like to me, besides the corners and safeties getting lost.
Yep.
And he just didn't change anything on the defense.
I don't know why they had to run blitz on the Donovan Edwards touchdown runs. I don't understand bringing just everybody, the full house of players, to sell out.
Yeah, I don't get that either. I mean, stuff works, and if it only works for so long, and then, when you get figured out, you need to change the play call. Like, don't get me wrong, Knowles is a good coach.
Yep.
And like everybody said, the nickel defense worked in the Big 12. This is the Big 10. This is a completely different ball game. So you got to be willing to change stuff on the fly. Ryan Day needs to be willing to change his scheme. CJ Stroud needs to be willing to take off, make the right reads, make the right progressions. And, you know, Edward made a good point in the after stream last night. He said, realistically, Ohio State, if they win the toss, they need to get the ball first, punch them in the mouth, pump up your defense to get a 3-and-out or some kind of stop. And then your defense can be like, okay, we can hang with these guys. Let's go. And then Ohio State offense just go back down and score again. Because I think realistically he's right. Because if Ohio State can jump out to about a 2-touchdown lead, or at least I'd say even a 10-point lead, then we got a fighter's chance realistically.
Well, there's a lot of ifs involved in those statements. I would kick off if I'm Ohio State. If I'm anybody, I kick off.
Yeah, and see, that's what I told him. He was like, Yeah,
I kick off. If your defense is not going to put stops up there, then you're not going to win anyway. And I always like the ability to score at the end of the first half and get the second half kickoff.
Yeah, the potential 10 or 14-point swing like Utah had or should have had.
Yep.
Oh, speaking of that, honestly, to me, and no, it's not the Ohio State fan factor, but to me, that was probably the best conference championship game this weekend. Just because of how like you could see all the momentum swings back and forth.
The Big 12.
No, the Pac-12 game.
The Pac-12 game was a better game than the Big 12 game?
Well, I mean, I guess yes, the Big 12 game was really good too. I would say it was better than the Pac-12 actually. I guess that's the fan in me coming out. Did you watch any of the post game for the Pac-12 game, by the way?
No.
It was funny because I watched some of the Fox post game coverage, and when they finally brought Whittingham on, he looked right in the camera and he said, "You're welcome, coach."
He said that to who?
The way everybody's been talking, it was directed to Ryan Day.
Oh, okay.
Because they beat USC and USC needed to go down for
Sure.
us to get in. But yeah. All right, Mark. Well, I'm still kind of tired and
appreciate
you got
you being
people
here.
on the phone, so
All right.
have a good one.
Good day. Thanks. All right. Yes. 25-year-olds telling me they're tired. Jeez, come on now. All right. Sad Saban. Well, I guess I better go fire some assistants. When does Alabama fire assistants? I don't think they really do. When is the last time Alabama fired an assistant? They usually have the assistants leave, don't they? They go get better jobs. I think. Maybe an Alabama fan can tell me, when is the last time Saban fired an assistant? I'm sure it hasn't been that long, but still, it seems as though they fire less than other coaches do. There's DeAndre. He wanted to call in, which he did, and he still sent us $2, $1.99 as a super chat. So if we can get into that groove, that would be phenomenal too. Thank you for that, DeAndre. Erica's here. Iowa will go either to the Music City Bowl or the Duke's Mayo Bowl. If we get Duke's Mayo, I'd love to see mayo poured on Brian Ferentz as revenge for such a BS offense. Yeah, that would be a good switch up in terms of the whole. Just looking at the betting lines there. They're exact. I nailed those betting lines. That's what I should do for a living, is set these betting lines. Anyway, yeah, that would be apropos right there. Instead of win or lose, because they're going to win 13-10 or they're going to lose 13-10. Brian Ferentz should get dumped on with mayo. That should be the least that's done to him for implementing such a horrific offense for all this time. Yes. It should be rubbed in his hair. Can you imagine trying to get that crap out of your hair? I'm sure whoever gets dumped on, and it was Shane Beamer last year, probably spilled like mayonnaise for a week. Sad Saban's back. Big Ten bias strikes again. There we go. Now, in addition to the SEC bias, we'll have those that will say that the Big Ten bias is coming through. So we now finally have another conference that was able to get 2 teams into the playoff. Any other super chats? I don't believe so. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We get Vandy Dandy. He's here. Vandy Dandy, had you had a complete season like you did the first couple of weeks of November or mid-November, then who knows? You look like a playoff team for 2 weeks. Vandy Dandy. Shame Tusk won't be played in the playoffs. Shame Tuscaloosa. There you go. Not in the playoffs. Not this year. So they missed for a second time. All right. We got Don on the line. Appreciate Don being here. Friendly reminder, if you live in Michigan and want to carry a gun, you must apply for a CCW before you can conceal and carry. Just throwing that out there. Well, Don, anytime you want to give us more consumer messages, then we will certainly accept them here at the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for that reminder to all that want to carry a gun in the state of Michigan. Gun owners in the state of Michigan, take heed. Anything else here? I don't believe so. Yeah. Uncle Lou stopping by TikTok. Uncle Lou, I believe, is alluding to Georgia waiting for Ohio State. Yeah, that should be a whole lot of fun. I'm going to enjoy the game regardless. You know, this is new life for the Buckeyes. Win or lose, get blown out. You can't win the national championship if you're not playing in the playoff or the invitational. It's the invitational. It's not a playoff. It is a crappy, stupid, moronic system, but it's college football. So it is what it is. And the committee was let off the hook. They had a very easy. I would love to know how long it took the committee to come up with this decision. Did they still meet for like 8.5 hours to determine this? Now, they should do their due diligence to get together, to walk through all the resumes and records and do the due diligence. And of course, they've got to rank the rest of the top 25. So there does take some time to that. They got to go through the whole process, even though nobody cares past number 5. They're going to take us through the top 25, which they're probably doing right now. Maybe they're figuring out the rest just to button up the rest of their role. Yeah, TikTok. Ohio State's going to have to play a whole lot better to match up against Georgia. There's no question about that. But hey, any Buckeye fan has to be ecstatic after watching that debacle against Michigan in the fourth quarter. Has to be ecstatic, excited. Are you not any Buckeye fan? Please tell me that you are not ecstatic and hopeful and excited. You can't win championships, even though they are tainted championships because of the invitational process. You can't win recognized championships if you're not invited. So they got invited because USC blew it. So USC, thank you. Thank you for having a weak and soft defense. Thank you. Just like Ohio State did the week before, but Ohio State didn't against other teams. But thank you, USC. Big Ten member USC. So that is basically USC tipping its cap to the rest of the Big Ten, saying, we are a new member of the Big Ten. We are one of your brethren. We are going to help you out. Help out a brother is what the SEC did there, or what USC did. Erica coming back here. Big Ten bias thoughts. That's a fallacy. There is no Big Ten bias here. Of course, there is no Big Ten bias. I understand the whole Ohio State backed in. Who else was going to go? Who has a better resume? The answer is no one. They have the best resume on the table. They have the best resume in America after the first three. It's not even close. It's not debatable. They've got the best resume. That's what it is. Here we have largest regular season loss by eventual playoff team. And shoot. Hey. Notre Dame lost by 24 points to Clemson in the ACC championship game, 34-10. Georgia got annihilated by Auburn. I remember that one well. I believe that was 40-17, 2017. So Georgia made it. And Georgia got blasted by Alabama in 2021 by 17. So Georgia's gotten blasted twice. Boat raced, as they like to say. I would like to know where that term came from. Boat raced. Two teams are having a boat race. Anyway, so Alabama's, no, I guess it was Auburn one time, crushed Georgia. So Georgia's had two blowout losses and still made the field, and Notre Dame and now Ohio State with more than a 3-touchdown loss. Now, there have been other teams that have lost by closer scores, but to worse teams. In 2014, Ohio State lost to a 7-6 Virginia Tech team. They made the playoff. In 2015, Michigan State lost to a 5-7 Nebraska team. They made it. I think those are worse losses, losing to worse teams, than losing to Michigan and Auburn and Alabama when they're top 5 teams in the country. Even if you get blown out by 3 touchdowns, those are better losses than losing to 5-7 Nebraska. Oklahoma in 2015 lost to 5-7 Oklahoma. 2016, any bad losses there? Washington lost by a couple touchdowns to USC, but USC was really good. 2017, bad losses. 2017, can't come up with any there. Oklahoma probably lost to Kansas State because that's who they always lose to, or they lost to Iowa State. So they lost to a marginal team, decent team. 2018, Clemson, Alabama were undefeated. Oklahoma lost again in 2018. They probably again lost to Kansas State. The other playoff team in 2018 was Notre Dame. They were undefeated. 2019, bad loss. 3 of the teams were undefeated, and Oklahoma again had 1 loss. So in 2017, 18, and 19, Oklahoma had 1 loss, and they lost to Iowa State or Kansas State. 2020, Alabama and Ohio State were undefeated. Clemson had lost to Notre Dame, and Notre Dame lost to Clemson in the rematch in the conference championship game. And and then here in 2021, of course, Cincinnati was undefeated. Georgia lost to Bama. Bama lost to Texas A&M. Michigan lost to Michigan State. So no bad losses last year. And then here in 2022, no bad losses. Ohio State lost to Michigan. TCU lost to Kansas State. Okay. So in terms of losing to bad teams, that is all Ohio State in 2014 losing to a marginal Virginia Tech team. And in 2015, Oklahoma and Michigan State losing to 5-7 teams. Now that's a bad loss. That's a bad loss. Sad Saban coming back here with Alex Grinch that saved Christmas. Sad Saban, just ripping off the one-liners. Erica coming back here. No, I meant the committee, not you. I understand that. I understand that. And I believe that pretty much wraps it up. Nobody else called. So thank you so much for being here, everyone. We will be here throughout the day, depending on any kind of breaking news. We typically have most of our coaches' news come out after the last regular season game. But in addition to Deion Sanders taking over at Colorado in beautiful Boulder, Colorado, and we posted a video on that, so please check it out. My thoughts on Colorado's decision to hire Deion Sanders. And we'll start to get the rest of the top 25, of course, and then the bowl selections come out, and we will have plenty to say later on. Maybe we'll go live. We will have our College Football After Dark show. That's coming your way at 10:45 Eastern time. So College Football After Dark live right here at the Voice of College Football. That's at 10:45 Eastern. And again, I'm going to go and be hard at work on bowl invitations. There are commits out there and transfer portal news and possible coaching news as well. Right here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you being here. If you have any requests on content, hit me up at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. If you would like to sponsor, if you have connection to a business that would like to sponsor us here at the Voice of College Football, we certainly can let you know how we can benefit you. Hit me up again at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. All right, that should do it, folks. Appreciate you being here. It was a fun time. It's Georgia 1, Michigan 2, TCU 3, Ohio State 4. So we've got a rematch of the 1992 Citrus Bowl between Ohio State and Georgia at 1 and 4, and we've got Michigan and TCU playing for the first time ever. Playing for the first time in my lifetime, I know that much. All right, we will enjoy it, and we will preview it ad nauseum for all of you. So we will see you very soon right here at the Voice of College Football. Erica, again, to clarify, Sad Saban said Big Ten bias in the chat. Big Ten bias. That's Big Ten bias.